Okay. Okay. Not sure why we have two live streams, but we'll have to fix that. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's just do this, I suppose. Music, 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 music. Okie dokie. Wow. This one has been interesting to say the least. Swipe to see real-time performance. No, you know what, I'm good. How's everybody doing today? We will get to work here in just a moment. Wanted to send a few invites. If you're out there, say hello so I know you're out there. I've got a few different things going on here. A few oars in the water, if you will. Looks kind of weird on my screen, like it's on my TikTok screen, I should say. Alright, so just so everybody knows, we're doing something kind of different this morning. I've got a multi-stream situation. Hey man. Hey, what's up? So I've got a multi-stream situation set up here, and I'm trying to get my head around how to get all of this to work together. So if I seem a little distracted at times, it's because I've got a lot of things going on. So we're streaming to YouTube. And Twitch and here on TikTok. And the challenge, really, is going to be keeping up with all of the chats. So, I apologize in advance. I'm not ignoring anyone, I'm just trying to keep an eye on everything. And I don't know if you guys got, if any of you guys have got Twitch or YouTube, but it'd be really cool if somebody would like go over there and check it out and just say something on the live to see if it's coming through. Because I don't know if I had it set up correctly, to be honest. Ooh. We'll get it figured out. It'll be old hat after a while. Let's see. All right. Well, regardless, let's get rolling. I thought just for grins and giggles, we'd go through making a cornucopia. I've got a technique that I've been kind of thinking about. I've observed other people doing it as well. So we're just going to kind of mess around with it and see what we come up with. And then we are going to be, I don't know if we'll be doing it today or not, we're definitely going to be creating a flexi scarecrow for the harvest holiday or Thanksgiving coming up. So I am going to squish this down. The objective here is to create a cornucopia. I'm going to go ahead and add a curved repeater to this. And there's our repeater. So real quick, like to make a cornucopia, basically what I'm going to do. Phoenix, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. I was just telling everybody we're live on YouTube and Twitch now, trying to expand our audience. All right, so I'm going to increase the count, and then we're going to decrease the radius here, and then bend this into more of a cornucopia shape. Snap, gotta turn that off. Actually, you know, I was thinking about that, AC, about doing a large or an XL version, and I think I will. You know, these print at 65 millimeters tall, ideally, and that's you know, that's the way I've designed them. But I do want to start stretching out into larger objects, so I think I might make a small version and then one that you can, I mean, you can scale these up any size you want, but yeah, a larger scarecrow, I think, you know, with multiple joints would be, yeah, 25 inches. That would be cool. Caesar, this is Nomad Sculpt. See, Phoenix and AC, I'm going to actually make you guys moderators if you don't mind, and that way you guys can kind of help out with the, since you guys show up a lot. Go ahead and give you guys moderating privileges. Don't abuse them. Be nice. I know you will be. I'm kidding. All right. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. There we go. What's up, weirdos? Hey, Wicked. How are you? Today we are creating a cornucopia. But anyway, to go back to what you were asking, AC, yes, I actually am planning to make the scarecrow, scalable. Thank you. Gosh, couldn't get the word out of my head there for a second. All right, looks like we need to actually size this a little more accordingly. Make it more cornucopia-ish, if that's a word. Hey, and if anybody has a chance, slip over if you have. I don't know if you go on Twitch or YouTube. Find us on Twitch and YouTube, and if somebody wants to be a real help, go to both platforms and just shoot me a quick chat because I want to see if the chat is coming through on both platforms. I set up a multi-streaming. I've got OBS running and all kinds of stuff because I'm trying to get set up to do tutorials and stuff on multiple platforms, etc. Alien, welcome. We are playing around with creating a cornucopia today using a basic primitive. I found scaling up is easy, but when you're like me and don't have enough knowledge to cut the model so that it fits properly on your BP. Okay, something to keep in mind. So 25 inches, yeah, that's going to be kind of big. So you'd have to build that in segments. We'll have to make it so the segments pop together. Which, it's actually something that I've been wanting to try out as well. Oh my gosh, that is not what we wanted. Sorry, I'm kind of going backwards in time here. Pin this open so we can keep coming back to it. Wicked. Yes, there you are. Okay. All right. And you hit me on both channels. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. Good to know that it's working. Just wanted to know. You don't have to stay there if you want to come back to back to TikTok. Yeah. Good. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, I'm using stream elements. And again, I apologize, but I've got to cycle through Windows to reach the chat screen, so, all right. I think I need to move, yeah, I'm going to move this over here. I'm not sure why it got, there we go. So now I just got to swipe back and forth. Excellent. All right, bear with me, like I said, while I learn using a new application here. makings of a caterpillar here. All right, so as I've said before, getting your shape right on the path, on the curve repeater is really just about putting a number of points in so you can manipulate this curve the way you want. So for example, if this is too tight in here and you want to free it up, you put a point here and then you move this down and away so you can soften that curve like that, see? But it's always better to start with the least amount of curves as possible, so it's not too cumbersome right out of the gate. It's always better to start simple with this stuff, and then gradually increase the complexity over time. I'm going to grab this piece here because that's kind of odd. This piece here is somewhat circular, but as it goes up here it becomes more oval. Wondering why. Did we change something in between? Weird. Can you see me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, let's see. I feel like that's a lot of divisions. I almost want to round this a little bit, or flatten. I'm sorry, not round it, but flatten it. So what if, let's check our wireframe. Yeah, that's pretty dense. You know what I'm gonna do? Let's start this over because I'm using a tessellated, or I forget what it's called. It's called a UV sphere. I just want to use a regular sphere. I think that might have been part of the problem, but let's check and see. All right, so it's doing it again. All right, anybody got any answers for me on this? All right, AC, thanks for stopping by. So it's a perfect, you saw the default sphere that we put in. It's a perfect circle. But as it pulls it along the path, it creates more of an oval. That's just not what we want. So when we align is when it changes. Okay, something to do with the align. Hey Pixel. We're just trying out some new things here with Nomad Sculpt. No high pressure today. I got a late start and I don't have a lot of time to spend, so my apologies for that. Yeah, I'm just wondering, what I'm trying to figure out here is currently why we're running into a situation here where when we increase the radius, it only does it seems to be in one dimension. And now we're completely over. There we go. So you see what I'm saying? It becomes more oval as it goes through the repeating process. I'm going to turn the grid off because we really don't need it. So it starts out as a perfect circle and then becomes an oval as it progresses along the chain. Have I ever combined a curve with a radial? Not yet. So are you suggesting we do that? Alright, let's do it. Nice. Alright, I'm going to get rid of that though. We don't need multiple cornucopias just yet. Lloyd Tank, we're making a cornucopia. Alright, you have 2 key points. Alright, Pixel, it's probably easier if you... You want to come in to the stream? We can chat about it rather than type. It's your call. I mean, if you can't type, or if you can't chat, that's fine. No worries, Lloyd. Yeah, okay. We will do. The organs, dits, and you repeat. Yeah. So let's do this. I'm going to get rid of these points along this path here and see what that does. You see, it kind of does the same thing. The orange dots on your actual curve. Are you talking about? Sorry. I guess we're working on this side. Are you talking about the profile? So if we set this to 1, yeah, it still turns it into an oval. Tell you what, let's try with a different shape. Let's try it with, say, let's do a box. Oh, it's a big box. I'm gonna scale this box down. See, it's doing the same thing with the box. It doesn't matter. The shape doesn't matter. All right, so it's not just me that thinks that's just kind of bizarre. All right, so we've got a curve here, and it scales it. It only scales it in 1 dimension. I feel like I'm missing something. What is that? Now if I turn alignment off, but then, all right, so maybe we have to do the alignment manually. No, maybe you accidentally adjusted the curve radius. All right, let's start from scratch. Here we go. All right, let's add again. Let's keep it simple because we can see how square a box is. We'll go ahead and make it more of a rectangular shape, like so. And then we'll add our curve repeater. All right. So there is our simple repeater. I'm going to move it out here away so we got a little room to work with. Okay, and we'll put a few of them in between there, drag it out. Actually, I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and modify this. A little bit too here. Try to keep it square though, as much as possible. All right, so there we go. Here is our repeater with multiple objects in between. All right. I'm going to turn snap off because we don't need it. All right. And then, of course, we can increase or decrease. Now it's doing it equilaterally. All right. So far, so good. The line is turned on, so basically I believe that means if we rotate it here, it aligns the orientation with the path. So it seems to be working correctly now. No, I understand. No, not the, I mean, with the individual objects, yeah. No, what I was trying to, all right, see, my live is frozen. Can you guys still see? Okay, we're good. Sorry, I had to refresh TikTok. Hey, there's my friend Whisper. Whisper, what's up? I don't know if you're still there or not. See, that's the problem. I don't have all my chats in one place, so I miss people. All right, anyway, no, I know if I want to adjust, I can either turn on multiple profiles on the curve, you know, all along the path, or I can, you know, I can go ahead and validate it and go in and manually change things. All right, so I've turned on starting and ending profile. I'm going to scale this one up. And it looks like it's remaining a square, so maybe there was just some sort of default, something was messed up. This would definitely be the warning for things not working properly. Okay, so it seems to maintain the aspect ratio of a square. So I think we're okay. All that worrying for nothing. All right, so now let's go ahead and replace this box with, let's try a torus first. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, it has remained a circle, so it would seem. I know some of you were wondering why didn't we do a cornucopia with the torus? And the problem is because it's hollow. All right, that's going to require a lot of supports in there, and we don't want that. That's why I was using a solid sphere. All right, looks like the crisis, whatever it was, has been somewhat averted, and everything seems to be working fine. So it must just have been a glitch. But that was weird, wasn't it? Glad I wasn't the only one that thought so. Now look at us doing all kinds of cool cornucopia shapes now. So there you go, folks, cornucopia. Now this one, of course, like I said, is hollow. That will not print very well. So what I would do instead, and actually what we could do is this. I'm gonna hide the curve. We're just going to work with this shape. Actually, no, because that shape has been moved. You know what? I'll tell you what, let's start over. Because I'm kind of twisted around here. And I'm going to turn my grid back on. And I'm going to set our turntable to, our camera to turntable. Whoa, sorry, I just updated the OS. How do I get this to full screen? Oh, Apple, you're killing me. All right, tell you what. Let's get rid of some players here. Oh. Yeah, I need to turn that feature off because that is messing me up. Oh my gosh. Sorry. This is Nomad Sculpt, running on an iPad Pro that I seem to have no control over at the moment because I don't know what I'm doing. Anybody know how to get out of this window view? Oh my God. Swipe down from the top right. God, this is so annoying. Oh, I think that's it. There we go. Boom. Thank you. All right. So once again, we're going to add a torus. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill that torus. We're going to work from the front. And actually, I'm going to snap this to 90 degrees when I rotate it. So there we go. And then I'm going to kind of flatten this torus out just a little bit like this. All right. Thank you, Cowgirl. Appreciate the assist. Like I said, I just updated the OS this morning. I've been on the iPad. I set up OBS. I actually set that up all day yesterday, and then this morning I installed Stream Elements, and I'm trying to get multiple chats, including TikTok, which it won't do. I'm trying to get it all on one stream, and it's just not it's not cooperating. So I'm just like, screw it. I'm going to go live, and I'll fix everything later. So my brain is a little fried at the moment. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a sphere now in the center of this torus. I'm going to lock this so it doesn't inadvertently move on us. And I'm just going to compress this sphere down like this, so that is filled. But then what it's doing is it's kind of setting us up with the front of our cornucopia. When it's when we've actually created our repeater here to get all the pieces in place. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it with curve repeater, and then we'll switch into edit mode. Yeah, I'm multi-streaming. I'm on Twitch and YouTube right now as well. I know, right? We're rocking. I think you can do that with OBS Studio Multi. Yeah, I'm using Stream Elements. I installed Atium or Atum, AEITUM, whatever that is. And then I installed Stream Elements this morning. So I got to go back and clean a lot of things up. If it's the new iPad, it's top left like a MacBook. It will have the traffic light. All right, let's. Ooh. Nope, I just put the whole thing to sleep. Top left. That is sexy though, is it? Ooh. Alright, that's not... Top left is not giving me what I want. Top right worked. But... Anyway. Not super important right now. Alright. It was when you were trying to maximize the window. So top left, if I'm maximizing. All right, let's give that a shot for everybody's benefit. All right, so here we are. You said top left. On the window? No. No. Yeah, I'm going top left. Oh, hello. Hey, you want to see what it looked like on a phone? There you go. You know what? I'm just going to go this route because that worked. Turn that stuff off because I don't need it. All right. So we've got the front and the ending of our cornucopia. I'm actually going to grab everything and move it up here on oh gosh, I can't think. Our x-axis. All right. Curve again. And slip into edit mode, and now we can increase the count of our objects in between. So you kind of see where I'm going with this, right? We flattened out our torus a little bit to make it more cornucopia-ish. I think you can stream on Instagram. I think that is an option. I don't know. Let me look real quick and see. Is Instagram an option? Looks like it isn't built into it. Kick, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, and Twitter. I checked out Twitter, and Twitter wants you to pay like $32 a month for access to their premium account. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. All right, and I'm going to click on our radius tool, which is going to give us, again, scale down the end there. Not going to get too flat or too small because I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. And then we'll start moving it into position. Now, if you stretch it too far, you just add more elements in between, more segments, and then we can start bending it into shape. And you can get as crazy as you want here. You know, I've seen some cornucopias where they've got a little bit of a hook, you know, coming over. Again, remember, if you're going to 3D print this, you definitely want to make sure that you're not getting too much of an overhang. Same thing down here. We'll probably, once this is done, just rotate it in place. But let's increase our segment count. And now we're kind of on our way. So this is solid inside now because of this. Actually, it's not. My bad. We're gonna have gaps in there, aren't we? Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's why we're doing this. So basically, what I would probably do instead of using the cylinder, or a sphere, I'd use a cylinder and make sure it goes to the halfway point of the next segment. So why don't you do that? All right, let's do that. I'm gonna turn the curve on, and actually, you know what? Let's just step back in time here. Bring it back down here. Turn on snap so we get it perfectly level. Oh, Maya, yeah, Maya. I used Maya. I've used Maya and Lightwave. You probably heard of Lightwave by NewTek. Yeah, Nomad Sculpt. Yeah, I've been. Listen here. Let me show you something. Let me save this real quick. Save as. We'll just call it corn. We'll just call it corn for now. In the past 4 months, this is the collection that I've created. Off, we don't need it. So this is my current, I call them wiggle buds because they wiggle and they're your bud. This is my guy. Hey, this is one of them printed out. This one's really hot right now. Everybody loves Bat Kitty. So we've got these, and then we've got these guys here, our Halloween collection. The Witch's Cauldron, that's this guy. Sorry, it's kind of heavy right now because it's got candy in it. But that's all printed out, and my wife loves this. Actually, my mother-in-law loves it too, and she wants one. We did some tombstones last week. And again, you can scale these up or down. Well, it's a sickness, cowgirl, once you get started. I've been 3D printing now for 12 years. And I saw a lot of business through my Etsy store. And then I got sick, and the doctor said I had to reduce my stress a little bit, or I was going to kill myself. So here I am, doing 3D modeling, and this is not stressful at all, as we all know. Cauldron straw topper. That's a great idea. Yeah, I like that. Actually, it wouldn't take much just to convert this, put a hole through it, and then scale it to fit. You're talking about like the Stanley Cups. If you don't mind, I might actually take that concept and see if I can make this work with a Stanley Cup. That's a cute idea. I like that. That's a brilliant idea. Give us a follow. Give us a follow. Check our bio. We got links. We got Discord. We love people. We love to be part. Have just staff. This is a Nomad Sculpt running on an iPad Pro. Oh, I won't steal your idea. Of course not. Believe me, I got enough of my own ideas to get through. Oh, why am I doing this again? Because we were going to change that shape. All right, so we're going to turn the curve off. Hide that. I'm not going to turn it off, and we're going to get rid of the sphere, which is currently what is in here right now. But the problem is it's concave or convex right here, and it's not touching the other segment as it goes through, and it's creating gaps, which will really be messy when it comes to printing. So we're going to delete that, and we're going to add a cylinder, and we're going to spin that 90 degrees. And we'll turn, actually we don't need to turn it off, and we'll bring this up here. And I think we'll go ahead and squish it down just a little bit. Like so. Alright, I think that should go far enough. I'm going to up the topology just a little bit so our increase the topology so our cylinder comes out, you know, kind of smooth when we validate it. There we go. Did we validate this? We didn't. You got to validate your items in order to make them editable when it comes to any kind of sculpting. All right, so now I think we've got our piece. Let's go back and turn our curve back on. Okay, so the last segment, it's going to protrude a bit. Actually, the last couple. But that's okay. We can tweak that once we validate and edit it and get it into its final format. So I'll grab the curve, put it into edit mode, and we'll lock our views so we don't accidentally move things. And then we'll start pulling this into a cornucopia shape. I'm sorry, I thought I answered staff. Yes, it is Nomad Sculpt running on an iPad Pro. And so that's about as complicated as it gets. I mean, from here, you know, like I said before, stretch your, you can maneuver these points any way you want. If this here, you feel like it's leaning back too far, the way you change that is you move it up here, or you put another curve here, a little closer, and move it up like that if you want. It's a very powerful tool, considering, again, that you're running on an iPad Pro. This is not a, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is one of the latest iPad Pros with the M4 chip. It's a very, very capable machine, but remember, again, you're using a machine that's like, you know, was it 6 or 7 millimeters thick, 10 mil, whatever it is, 10 millimeters thick, and you can throw it in an envelope. Gone are the days when we needed a silicon graphics machine running the best graphics card we could find. In fact, these things are probably more powerful than those silicon graphics machines we use. So now it comes down to, do you just want it to come straight around, or do you want to put a little, you know, a little cornucopia twist on it? This is, again, where it comes down to artist's discretion. You know, give it a little more of an organic look. Maybe that's too organic. Oh, I know. And part of the reason why I didn't get heavily into Maya was just because of that. Because of the ridiculous requirements for hardware. I'm just like, yeah, I'll just use Lightwave by NewTek. All right. So anyway, once you get it looking the way that you want, and again, I'm not sure this is the way I want, but I'm just demonstrating the concept at this point, and we're just going to go ahead now and validate it. Actually, before we, yeah, sorry, I'm thinking of something else. And then we'll join the children. So it's going to take all these pieces here and make it into one item. Okay. Now, you can keep these sharp. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Gaming. I haven't been a gamer all my life, but I do a little bit of gaming. All right, we're going to move our pivot point now down here so we can kind of rotate this thing from the center. I'm going to turn the snap off so we can just kind of move it however we want. And then what I would probably do is bring it down to something like this. And then in order to print this successfully on a printer, you're going to need to trim that bottom off so it sits fairly flat on the print bed. this. Like that. And then I'm going to do a little thing that's called a voxel remesh. I'm going to turn grid off so you can see. So you can see how it's still, it joined all the pieces as one item, but you can see how it's really, the geometry is pretty dirty. Great way to clean that up is just go in here to voxel and then do a quick remesh. We'll bump the resolution up to about 350, and boom, your wireframe's nice and clean. We've got some dimples on the bottom, but we'll just grab our smooth tool and flatten those out. I'm going to turn the symmetry off because this really isn't a symmetrical object. Yes, thanks, Pixel. Yeah. Go to Pixel Sculpt. Go to nomadsculpt.com/beta, and that's where you'll find the beta. Whisper, I see you came back. What's up? What's up? How's the stream looking? It can, but if you print something hollow, then you're going to need supports. So like, for example, if this was all hollow in here, then there would need to be supports in there to support the bottom wall, or the bottom of the structure inside. So if you make it solid, then all you have to worry about is any overhangs. Like back here, there might be a little bit of support needed right in here, maybe up to about here. Well, fortunately, no. It does not take that much filament. You'd be surprised. If you had to print supports in here, it would actually take more filament, and it would be very difficult to clean. But what you can do when you go to print is you can set your infill very low. In fact, you could print this with a 5% infill, and that's almost nothing inside here. So in effect, with the exception of the walls that make up your 3D printed item, it would actually be quite hollow. Yeah. So, all right, so what I would do then is I would probably come up here to my operations and throw a little bit of smoothing on it. And then from here, I grab my inflate tool, set it to sub so it pushes in. And then we would just go ahead and come over here, probably increase the size of our brush a little bit, and then just push the inside of this down. So like if we're going to put stuff in here, all right, so we created a little anomaly here, pushing the geometry on itself. But the way you get rid of that is you just come back up here to remesh, and then we smooth it over, and that usually works. Another thing that we can do instead, because we're deflating, so pushing the geometry in on itself, what I'll do here instead is I'll just use the clay tool and push it in, increase the size of the brush. Increase the intensity of my smooth. You can go over 100% for anybody that doesn't know that. Of course, that's why I'm here. I am here to help. So now we've hollowed out our cornucopia a little bit. Another way that we could have done that, let me just show you this. We'll use the mask tool to create a surface that we can. I'm going to go back. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to grab our mask tool. And I'm just going to tap this for a mask. All right, I'm going to blur it just a little bit. And then we'll invert it. So the part that we're going to affect is the part that is showing, which is unmasked in this particular case. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move that geometry in like that. And check it from the top and the bottom. Nice thing is we can scale it too a little bit so it doesn't, come outside of our edges down here if we go too far. All right. Now, you might need a few supports in there, but that's better than having to have supports all along the whole thing. And plus, you might, create pumpkins and gourds and, ears of corn or whatever to come out of this cornucopia. In which case, that'll take up a lot of the space and actually act as supports themselves. Alright, so we're going to smooth this out. Increase the size of our brush. Sorry, my iPad keeps moving on the table here. And I'll probably just go ahead and remesh it a little bit. That'll help get rid of some of the inconsistencies in the wireframe, which is really what we're doing now. The illusion is that we're sculpting virtual clay, when actually what we're doing is we're just modifying a wire mesh for this model. It's made up of polygons. And if you get wrinkles or holes and stuff like that, fortunately, remesh will take care of a lot of that. All right, and then I said earlier that we would fix this tail back here, so I just again grab the smooth tool and smooth this out a little bit so it blends in. And if I wanted to, I could go ahead and mask this just a little bit here, invert the mask, and again use my gizmo to just pull that geometry up a little bit, scale it down, clear the mask, and then go back in with our smoothing tool for a little bit of cleanup. And now we've got a little bit of a bump here and it doesn't look so primitive. All right, so we've got a pseudo cornucopia here. Now what we could do, if I was so inclined, is we could divide this into segments and maybe create a cut here and a cut here, and then put in the appropriate lengths so this thing flexes a little bit. A flexicopia. I keep getting invites for duels, and I don't want to duel anyone. You know what? You really can't beat it. I mean, I'll be honest with you, this application is $20. And I bought the application over a year ago, like yeah, I'm gonna get back into sculpting. And again, you're new here, so you don't know my story. I'm 2 years out from stage 4 lymphoma. The chemo was successful, but unfortunately the chemo was rather harsh for anybody that's gone through chemo. And if you haven't, I don't wish it on anyone. I don't care who you are. And it really just kind of sucked my will to live out of me for a while there. So I bought the application, like I said, about a year ago. No, thank you. I'm in full remission, so I just tell you that to give you a point of reference. Not looking for sympathy. And the bottom line is, it took me about a year and a half to get back on my feet, not just physically but also mentally, because chemo, like I said, really affects you not only physically but your body and brain chemistry. So here we are, and like I said, I bought Nomad Sculpt over a year ago actually, and just really made the decision to start creating my own line of minis and being more active in the sculpting and creative community. Sorry, there's a support on here I had to take off. And what I just showed you, I've accomplished in the last 4 months. We're on Patreon, My Mini Factory, and now we're streaming on Twitch and YouTube. And there's literally nobody watching this, but that's okay. It'll catch on. Actually, my gaming friend, my Fortnite friend, Whisper is on. I think he's on Twitch. So, glad to be here. Obviously, God was not, his purpose was not to take me home just yet. So, I'm still here and I'm trying to make good use of the time. All right. So, let's make a pumpkin. I'm thinking a pumpkin to, the question is, do we do a pumpkin and make something like, I was thinking maybe of making something like peeking out, like make one of my wiggle buds peeking out and put his paws on here. I think I like that concept. The only problem with that is I don't think a cornucopia is big enough in the right areas. I mean, I could go ahead and move. So for example, if I want to move the front of this, I'd probably want to go ahead and mask off just the front. Actually, I want to mask, I don't want to move the bottom, so let's just move like this much of it. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and reset our mask, and then we'll invert it. And now I can go ahead and move stuff without affecting, the only thing that's going to be affected is the part that's exposed. I'm going to blur it, get a little bit of blur. Cool, yeah, following is good. I try to, I don't gatekeep anything I do. Everything is up there, you know. The learning is for free. At some point in the future, I might, I might monetize things. Obviously, I have my collection on paper. I've got a link on Patreon that leads to my mini factory. That's where my stuff is at. But as far as knowledge goes, yeah, I'll give that away all day long. Because that's the way I got it. I didn't pay to go to school and, get all of the papers and certificates that say I can do what I say I can do. I just learned from other people. Back in the day when I started my learning journey, it was books and magazines, because we didn't have YouTube like you whippersnappers. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have the Google machine and all that. So this was, the only option I had was to get books and magazines from the local bookstore. I don't know if I'll sell it. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was thinking about ways to incorporate, this. I've got options on my models that include a keychain attachment, so people can, attach these to their keychains on all of them. And then there's ones that don't have the keychain attachment, so if they just want, a little buddy to sit on their desk or at home or at work, they can. But I looked at Stanley Cups, and in fact, I modeled my own Stanley Cup, because all of the models out there, I really didn't like them. I didn't think that they were. Just my own personal preference. I didn't like them. I won't go into detail, but and I've got 5 printers sitting downstairs. The only problem is I'm just finding it really hard to get motivated to get back into the actual selling game. And just to give you some background, I was one of the #1 stores on Etsy, and this is 2.5 years ago. For 3 years running, we were one of the top 3D printed item stores on Etsy. And I won't go into great detail in terms of how we I feel like we were kind of part of the crew that got things started. Now there's just a ton of competition out there, which is fine, which is great. People gonna do what they want to do, and that's fine. I've got no problem with competition, because I think there's enough work and customers for everybody. But me personally, I'm just having a hard time getting motivated to go back out, because it's a bit of a grind. I'm not gonna lie, and that's part of what I think my doctor made me sick. I mean, I was literally on 24/7, and when you're running a shop, you don't really have any option. You know, you got to get the orders out. You got to be constantly looking for new products and figure out how to market yourself. It's just it's a rat race. You know, so if I do get back into any kind of sales, it's going to be very, very low level, very minimal. I'm not looking to, you know, break any land speed records anymore. I was back then. The reward was great, but the toll was also great. Yeah, no, no, I get you, and I agree. It is 100%. And you know, in some cases, it's like, what can you do? Because you got to make a living, right? You got to do what you got to do. And at least I'm one of the, you know, I'm one of the few that are lucky enough to, you know, to be able to do what I enjoy. But not a lot of people can do that. And I encourage people, you know, figure out what your passion is. Figure out what your passion is. And if you can, like Walt Disney said many years ago, he said, if you can figure out what you love and you can figure out a way to make a living doing it, you'll never work a day in your life. So it was easy for me to put in, you know, 18-hour days on a regular basis. Unfortunately, my health and my wife wasn't, first of all, didn't appreciate me, you know, being unavailable all the time. But she's very tolerant, very patient. She's a saint, literally and figuratively. And so she, you know, she supported me. And then when I got sick, she said, okay, whatever you decide to do next, if it starts making you sick, I'm going to burn it to the ground. I'm like, all right. All right. So, oh my gosh, TikTok is so demanding. Yes, I'm still here. Anyway, so we've gone ahead and modified our cornucopia, but as you can see, it's created some issues because even though we masked off the area, it looks like I pulled a little too hard, a little too close to the mask, and it changed our geometry. So what I would do in this situation, if I was going to clean this, and you've been watching me do it, is use the inflate tool, or first of all the smooth tool, to try and, you know, somewhat clean things up. And then I'd probably switch over to the inflate tool and come back in here and reestablish, you know, the bumps here. And then there's another tool that we can use, which is an awesome tool on many levels. We can crease these back in here. Again, just like we're working with real clay. You know, we're just cutting this in with a knife to reintroduce the detail that we lost. But because I know how to make a cornucopia out of the basic elements, now that I've got a little bit more of a vision of what I'm going to do with this cornucopia, I'll just go back. I'm just going to go back and redo it. Cowgirl says, I'm an equine. Let's see, they go back. I made the choice of leaving a job that stressed me to that point to chase my dreams. I'm an equine photographer. Absolutely love my job. That is, yeah, nice. I love horses. I've never had one, or I've only ridden like 3 or 4 times, and one time I fell off the horse and it literally stepped on my knee. Didn't do any damage, but I'm just like, yeah, I'm done with horses. But I do love, they are graceful, gorgeous animals. Graceful and gorgeous animals. So, good for you. Good for you. All right. So let's remake this cornucopia again now that I've got a little bit more of an idea of what I want it to look like and how I want it to, and what its function is going to be. So we're going to create a cornucopia now that's a little bit shorter and a little bit fatter at the opening, so I can put a creature, we can sculpt a creature and stick in there along with, you know, maybe a couple of pumpkins or ears of corn or, you know, whatever. Grapes. I'm trying to think what all, apples. All right. So let's, well, you know what? If that hurt your soul, I do apologize, but here's the good news. I'm going to recreate it again, and the cool thing is, it'll be even faster this time, because now I know what I'm doing. All right, so here's our starting torus. I'm going to go ahead and lock it down. We're going to snap it to 90 degrees, and then we're going to stretch it. And I'm going to go ahead, you know what, I'm going to increase the topology. I'm thinking of unlinking it. I'm going to go ahead and turn off our lock here real quick. I'm going to unlink the, I'm going to increase the topology this way, but I think I want to diminish it. No, because that's going to look ugly. All right, let's leave it linked and we'll just increase it. I'll go ahead and... Tricia, this is Nomad Sculpt. And we're currently running on an iPad Pro. Good news is they make it for Android as well, if you're an Android fan. I don't work for Nomad Sculpt, in case anyone is wondering. I just like to give people the tools that they need to do what they want to do. All right, so I think I need to increase the radius and then decrease the thickness of our torus. The cool thing again about toruses, you can open them up and make half toruses or whatever shape you need. So if you just need an arch, there you go. If you need the full ring, which in this case we do, that's how you do it. All right, so let's see. I'm going to stretch this just a little bit more. Okay, so what I did there was I increased the radius of the profile, but if I want to just stretch it, I'll just slip into my gizmo and just stretch it like that. So now it looks more like the one ring tool, or tool of them all. All right, we'll go ahead and validate that, and then we're going to add our cylinder. And again, because I haven't moved anything, we're still square with the world. I'll go ahead and snap is already on. We'll snap that to 90 degrees. Same thing. I'm going to go ahead and change the depth of that just a little bit. And then we will increase the topology. And then we'll validate it. Turn on X-ray so we can see through things. I'm going to go at the halfway point here. I'm well over the halfway point out here because that's where it's going to intersect with the next ring, and I don't want to get too far into the next ring, but far enough. There we go. That's about halfway. So we've got our torus and our cylinder. I'm going to go ahead and put the cylinder inside the torus, so we'll link those two together. So they're now a unit, and then we'll add our curve repeater. Uh-oh, something happened here. Oh, I guess our cylinder wasn't big enough. Duh. Well, let's fix that. I'm going to go ahead and increase. Oh, I got to increase just the cylinder. And I'll turn X-ray on so you can see that we're overlapping the inside of our torus just a bit. All right, now we're good. And the change I made on this reflected on the repeated part as well, which is nice. All right, I'm going to go back and grab that curve. We'll pin this panel open. And now, as we did before, I'm going to go ahead and decrease our size of the element on this end of the repeater by turning on radius at both ends. If I have radius just on one end, when I change the size, it'll change it on both pieces. But if I set it to radius on both ends, I can leave this end this size and scale this end down here, like so. Okay. And now we'll just go ahead and pull this into the shape that we want it. Give it a little curve here. And then we're going to put some segments in between. Now see, if you want to leave, so the cool thing is with that cylinder there, if you wanted to leave a gap in there so you could see it, like, you know, so now we kind of get into tube with ribbing, you know, tubing or hoses with ribbing on it. Isn't that cool? But we're looking for overlap because this is going to be a organic cornucopia. There you go. Oh, you like the toothless? Thank you. Yeah. It's funny because I was doing backups and stuff over the weekend, and I was walking through my Nomad Sculpts, and it's really fun to see, you know, how I've changed my style a little bit and really advanced my capabilities over the past months. So I got a little gap in between here that I'm not too fond of, you can see. So we'll just increase the count. Or what you could do too is go back to your original piece and just thicken it up. See how that changes? All right, let's go back to our curve. Give it a little bit more of a curl here. And I'm going to thicken that up just a little too much. You see the cylinder coming through back there on the back? So now the cool thing is I can go ahead and adjust that cylinder, turn on X-ray. We can see all the cylinders inside now. I can say, you know what, it doesn't need to be that thick. And now we're changing the size of the cylinder. We can change the diameter of it. So now you can see how that X-ray capability is pretty useful. Again, we're going to be a little organic with our presentation, nothing too dramatic. There we go. Now I'm rotating the entire thing, but if I wanted to rotate, say, just the cylinder, watch what happens. Nope, not the cylinder, I meant the torso. See how that changes everything along the path? I have to be careful again because that cylinder is starting to peek through. All right, let's take a walk around here and make sure everything looks good. We've got some gap here. I think we'll just add a couple more segments along our path. There we go, gap is covered. All right, so so now that we've got everything pretty much laid out the way that we want, we're going to go ahead and validate everything. So the cylinder and the torus have already been validated. All that's left now is to validate the curve. This curve now contains all of our segments. All right, now if for some reason you wanted to keep these segments as separate objects, then you would say keep instances, and then what you could do is go in and adjust each segment independently. And in fact, maybe we'll go ahead and do that so I can show you. So there's all of our torus and cylinders. Okay. And the reason that I went ahead and did it this way, if I went the other way, it would join everything together into one aggregate shape. But the reason I did it this way is because instead of using my mask tool like we did before to stretch out the end segment, I'm going to leave it as its own object here, and we're just going to stretch it out. by itself. And I might actually do this to a couple of segments of the torus as well. We're not going to move anything, we're just going to change the geometry a little bit. And I'm going to increase the size of this to overlap that last segment. And then I think what I might do is we might actually, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and merge everything together now. So basically now I'll select everything and we'll go back up to our voxel remesh. And again, I'm going to set the resolution up to about 350, 400. And now it's going to weld all of these segments together into one continuous wireframe. Turn the wireframe on so you can see it. There it is without. Turn the grid off for a moment since we don't really need it. Now that I'm looking at this, I'm not too crazy about this angle here, so I'm going to go back a little bit in time. I feel like that's just a little extreme right there. That's my dog Pepper. Everybody say, hey Pepper. Good morning. Yeah, I want to shrink that down a little bit. Alright, you can see our cylinder is coming through here, so I'm going to scale that down. Actually, you know what, let me try and increase the divisions along our curve. Yeah, that'll cover it up nicely. I like that better. So if you wanted a cornucopia that doesn't have as many segments in it, what you'd have to do is you'd have to create thicker segments, and then you'd have to probably reduce the severity of your curve, because it's the curve that's going to require the segments to cover gaps. So we could thicken this up here like this. And then I go to the cylinder itself, which doesn't need to be that. I'm going to turn X-ray on so we can see. And now if we go to our curve and reduce our segments, you can see it covers the gaps a lot better. And actually we kept our curve, so that's not too bad. It gets really thick up here. Which we can modify this again after the fact once we validate this into the individual segments. Maybe that's what we'll do. All right, so I like this layout. I like the curve. It's not too extreme. And when we rotate this into place, it'll sit nicely like that. Might need a little support in the back end, but not a big deal, okay? All right, let's go ahead and turn our grid on. I'm gonna move this whole thing up on our print bed line. And then we'll do exactly that. We'll rotate this down in place. And then I'm going to move it below the cut line. This is where it gets trimmed on the bed. All right, let's go ahead and validate that curve. We're going to keep instances because we want to go back in again and individually adjust our elements. I just want to thin this down a little bit. I don't want it quite so thick up front. But I want to make sure, turn grid off, make sure that we don't create any gaps. And it looks like we're okay. good all the way around. So now what I'll do is we'll go ahead and actually, before I finish, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to realign the pivot. To make sure it's square with the end. So when we start modifying this geometry, it doesn't pull it at an angle. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull that out just a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the smooth tool in this piece alone, because what I want to do is I want to smooth that top in a bit dramatically. We'll re-smooth it with, or we'll re-mesh it here in a second. Increase the resolution to clean it up, but right now I just want to kind of carve it down a little bit. Shigeru. I don't know how to pronounce that, but hi. How are you today? How's the modeling going? If you guys don't follow Shigeru, give him a follow. He's an excellent modeler in his own right. Good. I know we haven't spoken in a while, but I think last time I spoke to you, I was in the throes of recovery from chemo. But I'm in full remission and doing well, so good to see you. All right, so we've got everything pretty much situated the way we want. Let's go ahead and join all these elements. We'll go ahead and do a quick remesh. I'm going to pump it up again to about 350, 400. And that should create a nice smooth mesh, and we didn't lose any of the detail. I'm going to turn symmetry off because this object is not really symmetrical at all. And I'm going to smooth it out in here. I'm going to grab my mask tool. I'm going to grab that surface there. And then we're going to blur that mask a little bit. And then we'll invert it because we're going to use our gizmo tool to pull that geometry in. A little bit, we'll scale it. We don't want it to broach the edge of our cornucopia anywhere. I'm not going to get too deep. I think that's far enough. We'll clear our mask. I'm going to do a remesh again. Okay, whoop. Grab our smooth tool once again. Now the objective would be to fill this with as much geometry as we can, so we don't really need supports. Any support functions will be taken care of by the edges of the geometry being close to each other inside. Alright, now that we got our basic cornucopia shape, let's double check placement. We'll need some supports probably right up to about here. So that's negligible. I think that's worth the sacrifice. So I'm going to go ahead and trim the bottom. Now remember, when you do a trim, it's going to look a little dirty on the edges on the bottom, but the quick way to fix that is we just go ahead and remesh it, and it'll clean those edges right up. And there you go. This is Nomad Sculpt, running on an iPad Pro. They are currently working on versions for desktops, Mac and PC, but right now it's on a tablet. You bet, of course. If you want to pick up the one of the betas for desktop, you want to go to nomadsculpt.com/beta. Now, one thing I'm going to do real quick here is I'm going to pull out a little bit of a tip here on our tail. Give that cornucopia a little bit of a pointed look there. Alright, I think that's a good place to save, so let's go ahead. I'm going to save it, and then we're going to rename it because it's no longer corn, it's cornucopia. And it doesn't need to be all caps. Alright, any questions from anyone so far about what we're doing? What you've seen so far? Okay, no questions, then we'll move on. And I'm going to go to probably about 2 p.m. today, just so everybody knows. So just whatever we don't get done today, obviously I'm going to pick up and we'll continue tomorrow. Let's try creating, I'm thinking pumpkin. So the visual, or the concept here is to create a little critter here at the mouth of our cornucopia, and then surrounded, it's kind of coming out of the cornucopia with some fruits and veggies. And again, we're just kind of working out the concept. Now, I don't know if this will be the final model, but we can at least get in the ballpark. All right, let's go ahead and create a pumpkin. I'm going to turn grid back on real quick here. Now, we could go ahead and create a pumpkin like this. Go ahead, validate it, sculpt it, put put the stripes, you know, the bulges in it, so forth. But I think instead what we're going to do is we're going to use what's called a radial repeater. All right, and I think we'll try using the sphere first. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to up the topology, and then we'll validate it. And now we're just going to take a segment of this sphere. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab my trim tool. And let's use our line. First thing I'll do is we'll split it in half. Okay, so there's that. And then I just want to take a slice. Actually, I want to make sure that we're cutting in the right place. I'm going to turn the wireframe on so we can see. Oop, I accidentally undid. My bad. That's all right. I'll just redo it from this direction. All right. So what we've got now is we've got a slice of pumpkin. I'm going to go ahead and remesh this a little bit. Take it up to about 200. Yeah, maybe about 250. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to sculpt this one piece to get it to look the way that we want, and then we're going to duplicate it. Oop. Okay, so let's grab our smooth tool first. Smooth down these edges. Turn the grid off because we don't really need it right now. I'm going to grab my inflate tool, and I think we'll actually want to still inflate. Let's get even more complicated. Let's use the mask tool, and we're going to mask off just this edge here. Whoop. And I'm going to solo it, so we're only looking at this piece. So we have a mask on the outside. I'm going to invert. Actually, I'm going to blur it a little bit first, and then we'll invert our mask. So now the part again that we're affecting is only the part that's showing. Everything else is masked off, so we can, we can sculpt and do things all day long, and it won't affect it there, but it will here. Okay. So a couple of ways that we could do this. We could use our inflate tool, set the radius kind of high, and come in here and just pull out this geometry. Another thing that we could do is we can use our move tool. And we can just, now the problem is it's going to move everything. So you're not going to get that, that bubble look along the edge that you want. So let's go back to our inflate tool and turn the intensity down. Increase the radius. And then we will just gently inflate and then I'll grab my smooth function here and smooth it just a little bit. And now for a little more localized smoothing, we'll grab the actual smooth tool and just go along and work this until I get it the shape that I want. I need to inflate a little more here, and then we'll smooth it. Now it's kind of difficult because we don't really have a frame of reference to work from here, but that's okay. The cool thing is what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this piece, and then we're going to use our radial repeater to put it all together, and then we can modify it while it's in place with the rest of our pieces. So let's go ahead and do that. So we've got our piece here. I'm going to lock this down. And I'm going to go up here and add a radial repeater to it. And that is nowhere near where it's supposed to be. And that's okay, because what we need to do is we need to, whoop, I got the mask, don't I? We need to clear the mask. Now we can rotate this piece. And I'm going to actually realign our pivot. And we can bring this in now to the center, like so. We'll tip it on its side here so you can see it. And then we'll just go ahead and increase the number of divisions or the number of segments. And now just like that, we've got the beginnings of our pumpkin. Now, as I said before, it's not exactly, photo ready. So by smoothing one piece, because this is a copy of one of these pieces, I can change the whole pumpkin shape and smoothness just by using the tools. So for example, if I really want to get crazy, use my inflate tool, you can see how it's affecting it all the way around. Okay, so that's basically how the repeater works. Now, just for reference, another thing that we probably could have easily done was used an ellipse with the repeater and gotten the same effect. But sometimes I like to take the scenic route to show you, some of the more, what's the word I'm looking for? Some of the more complicated uses of some of these tools. All right, so I can squish my pumpkin down. If I want, I can grab the center and pull that. That's pulling it out, although that's kind of a neat effect, isn't it? What I want to do is well, actually, that's something I'll probably do after we merge all this geometry together, which would be our next step. So we come up here to remesh, actually grabbing the whole item, and we'll join the children so it becomes one object, and then we'll remesh the whole thing to weld it all together. And now we can go ahead and sculpt and smooth and further deform it to look the way that we want. Let's see, grab the deflate and set it to sub, and just push this in a little bit. Actually, it's not doing exactly what I want. Another thing that we could do is we could use our mask tool. Invert it. Use our gizmo, push that center down a little bit. And there's, I think the thing is to keep in mind is there's no real right or wrong way. And when it comes to doing this, it's the way that you're most comfortable with and the way that you use to execute your vision. And we'll probably wind up trimming the bottom of this pumpkin a little bit. A gourd could also be a gourd. I could stretch this out and make it a gourd just by stretching the profile. We're past that point, but if you want to make gourds, that would be what you would do next. And we're just doing some cleanup here. Symmetry's on, so we're cleaning up on both sides. But I like to just take a walk through the park to make sure that we're getting everything. Now the next thing that we need on top of our pumpkin would of course be a stem. So I'm going to use our tube tool, and we'll start a path here, go up here, and then just hit execute. So now we have a stem. Of course, we need to put it over here where the stem goes. We're working with a tube, so we have the ability to increase the radius. We can also independently increase both the starting and ending radius. Make it look more stem-like. I'm going to pull it into the pumpkin a bit. Alright, and if anybody knows pumpkins, they grow on a vine and they look a little rigid along the edges. There's a number of ways that you can do that. The way we're going to do it is we're going to change the profile of this extrusion, which is basically what this is. This is an extrusion. We've taken a circle and we've extruded along the path and decreased the radius as it came to the end of the path, and it gives us our shape. But if we turn on profile, the default is a square. No problem, we can fix that just by tapping these corners and rounding them. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into this shape, and I'm going to turn off snap because I really don't want to be plagued by its desired snap to the grid, because we're going to be a little bit organic in our shape here. And really, again, it comes down to artistic interpretation, how you envision this stem looking. I have grown pumpkins, so I know this is how they look. They're somewhat round, but they're also a bit irregular. So just keep moving stuff around until you get it the way you want it. By tapping these points, you can go from a corner to a sharp corner, a rounded corner to a sharp corner. So that's basically what we're doing here. Alright, once you get the organic looking profile that you want, then what I recommend you do is you move it back to center. And then when we get out of here, you'll see we're on our way to a very stem-looking pumpkin stem. Let's go ahead and focus this. All right, so let's come out here now. Come back out here, and what we're going to do is we're going to increase the topology just a little bit more, so it's nice and smooth on the edges. And then we're going to give our stem a little twist. So I'm going to turn on the starting and ending control handles, and then we're just going to give it a little bit of a twist like that. And there you go. Maybe it's a little too much. Let's undo it a little bit. Okay, you get it the way that you want. And again, if you want a little more curve to it, if you want this bending over a bit, it's all, again, up to the artist. And if you're doing this kind of stuff, you are an artist. And I am very proud of you. I'm going to make it kind of big because we're going for the animated look here. Okay, I'll validate that into our final object. All right, the end is a little bit rough, so we can grab our smooth tool and just smooth that out a little bit. We can also remesh it and then hit it with a corporate smooth. And then just come in here and do some final cleanup. I probably should have increased the topology of this before we validated it, but that's okay. All right. Okay, so we've got a something of a pumpkin here. I'm going to turn the solo off, and now we can see that pumpkin, how it fits nicely into our cornucopia. This is our stem. We're going to name it stem. And whoops, this is our pumpkin. We'll name that such. And then we're going to go ahead and come out here and we'll position it where we want. Oop. That is changing the shape of it, not moving it. I'm going to bring it down here a little bit because, and I'm going to remove or change our pivot point placement. Give it a little bit of a tilt there. And then maybe we would clone it and put another one over here. Scale it down, make a smaller one. And pivot it and place it. All right, so we're on our way to stuff coming out of our cornucopia. Good discipline to have is to make sure that you're saving your files. Save early and often, and you'll never run into trouble. All right, anybody got any questions so far? Take that as a no, but you know what? I need a drink. Just gonna step away here for 1 second. Grab a beverage, which happens to be in the fridge right behind me. Oh yeah. This live stream is not brought to you by Coca-Cola. I just happen to have a Coke in the fridge. That's what we're drinking. Gotta be careful the faces I make. People on Twitch and YouTube can see my face. And for that, I am sorry. All right. Just checking my streams on YouTube, speaking of. And Twitch and everything seems to be going just fine. That's great. All right then. Okay, I just wanted to check. Make sure that nothing was the wheels weren't coming off. All right. Sorry, my hand's right in front of the camera there. All right, what else is going to be in our cornucopia? I'm thinking maybe an ear of corn. Or two. Ear of corn. All right, so let's think about that for a second. How are we going to make an ear of corn? Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to need, for sure, I think we're going to need a sphere. So let's start there. Move that out here. Now I could make these as separate files and then just, bring them in, but I think we'll be okay working this way. Again, this is an iPad Pro, so we've got plenty of horsepower. All right, so I think we'll stretch this out to give kind of the ear of corn shape. And then, of course, corn is going to need kernels, right? Kernels on the ear. Let's turn on. Oh, shoot! I did not mean to clone that. Let's get rid of the clone. I meant turn on the grid. All right. So our first kernel, I think we should use. Let's use. I don't want to use a tube. I think we'll just stick with primitives for now. So let's do, you know what? Kernels are kind of box shaped. Let's go ahead and put a box out there. And, excuse me, we'll make this a, when all is said and done, it will look like a box, or a kernel, I promise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually drop the topology down. So the edges are a bit rounded right out of the gate, which will help us when it comes to changing this into its final shape. I'm going to scale it down. This is going to be an animated ear of corn, so it's not going to be, you know, like perfect kernels, all the same, I mean, all the, you know, small kernels on a cob of corn. I'm going for something that's a little more stylized. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of rotate that into place, drop it into our corn cob. And I think we'll just go ahead and validate this. And then I'm going to check the remesh. I'm going to drop it down quite a bit, actually. Oop, even further. And I'm going to grab my smooth tool, and we're going to smooth the edges to round this into more of a kernel shape. Turn on X-ray so we can see through our kernel or our cob. Now, if you know anything about kernels of corn, they kind of taper as they go into the cob. So we can do this a couple of ways, which this is the way that I'm choosing to do it. We could also mask off the bottom edge, the bottom half, and then use our gizmo to taper it in and then smooth it all out. But this is just as fast for what we're trying to accomplish. So I think we'll just stick with this method. All right. Just so you know, this is also a quick way to make teeth, if you didn't notice the similarities. I think we will go ahead and use the mask. I'm going to go ahead and mask select, and we'll just grab the bottom half of this. And I'm going to invert it and grab our gizmo, pull it down, scale it just a bit. Okay, and now when we break out of this mask, we can use our smooth tool once again. Clean this all up. Let's go a little bigger on our brush size. And the edges. I want it kind of squared, but not too much. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and smooth it all over with our corporate smooth tool. And there we go. So we've got a kernel of corn now. Now, you could copy and paste and put all of these along your cob, which would be very tedious. And we're not going to do that because I like doing things the easy way. So what I'm going to do is I'll move this over here. Whoop. Rotate it into position, and then we are going to go ahead and apply. I'm going to call this kernel, and I guess we'll call this cob. I'm going to validate that sphere because it doesn't need to be, we don't need to change it at the primitive level anymore. We'll grab our kernel, and then we're going to add to that a curve repeater. Okay. And we're going to drag this over here to the other end of our kernel. And then we're going to go back to our gizmo, and we're going to rotate that into place. Like so. Put it back the way it goes. We'll pin this window open so we don't have to keep opening and closing. Actually, you know what? No. It's a pain in the butt. All right. can grab the curve. We'll turn snap off. And we're just going to make our path follow this corn cob. And we're going to put some kernels in between. Okay. And we'll just tweak this to get it to lay just how we want. And there we go. Ease, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. We're making a cornucopia for harvest. All right, I think we need maybe another kernel in between here. Maybe 10. I don't know if that's too much or not. You know, yeah, they could be teeth. That's what I just told everybody. I said, you know, you can use the same technique to create teeth. But no, today they are corn. I feel like they might be a little. I want to make them a little bigger, actually. And then we'll go ahead and reduce the number of kernels. There we go. Did I see your messages about a turkey? When did you send it? And did you send it on here or Discord? Oops. Because if I haven't, I will definitely go look. I've gotten a lot of messages here recently, so it might have gotten a little buried. Okay, I will definitely go look again. The weekend was kind of busy. By the way, you'll be happy to know that I'm live streaming on Twitch and YouTube right now as well. I finally got that all set up. I'm actually still setting it up. It's quite a pain. But at least we're making tracks. All right, so once you get this placed the way you want it, I'm gonna go grab my radius, starting and ending. And actually, you know what, I'm gonna do radius on all points in between. And the reason is because I can now make these a little smaller out here on the end. And any point in between without losing the size in the center. If I want them really big in the center, I can make them really big. I don't, but if I wanted to, I could. Let's look at it from the top. All right, I like that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and validate this into a corn, we'll call it a row of kernels or a kernel row. So how have you been? Busy, I assume, because you've been a little bit, how do you say, absent. All right, I'm going to go ahead and change our pivot point, put it right here on the cob. Packing. And where are we going? Okay, so we have options. We can clone this and then just spin it around the axis if we want, like so. And just keep doing that all the way around. Or we can use now a radial repeater on this axis. So you're moving from the Midwest to the East Coast. Very good. Good for you. We're going to rotate this around the z-axis, I believe. No. Sorry, the x-axis. I always get those mixed up. And then we'll move this. I'm not sure why I did that. That's kind of odd. Let's go have a look. Kernel row. Oh, we've got an extra kernel row. All right. Let's move this back up so it's on the cob. Oh, 9-day vacation. Oh, okay, okay. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. And then we're going to increase the radial count. That's probably enough. And now you can see we have a very stylized, animated looking cob of corn. Wasn't that fun? Now what's left is to create some kind of, you know, container for it, like, I think let's go ahead and leave this as is, and I think we'll use a sphere. We could do a tube, but I think a sphere will work just as well. Move this over here. And of course the sphere is in our radial, so it's making another pumpkin, which is not what we want. Well, 9 days, not fun. I'm actually leaving for Colorado, not this weekend, but the coming weekend. I'm gonna spend a week out there. I'm gonna drive there. I like driving. Nothing like a good road trip. And then I think what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and validate and split this, so we're only working with half of it, because that's all we need. I know, hold on, it's, is it Colorado Springs? Does that sound familiar? I think it's Colorado Springs. I'm gonna take my drone, catch some cool footage. All right, now let's flatten this out. Because if anybody's ever seen an ear of corn, there's these things called husks that are on the outside of them. And that's what we're going to try and recreate here. Do a little sculpting of this sphere. I'm not going to lie. This is actually going a little better than I thought it would. And remember, you have the X-ray option if you want, so you can kind of see through things and see where stuff is lying. So I think what we'll do is we're going to go ahead, I need to pull this out of here. We want it to hug our ear. Who doesn't like to have their ears hugged? Am I right or am I right, huh? I'm kidding. Oop. And then this, I think we will just go ahead and rotate around. I'm going to move the pivot point, put it right here on the ear corn. And then I think we'll just clone it and rotate it. Because I want to get a little overlap here. And then I'm going to clone it and rotate it around again this way. And then we kind of get this presentation. Now I'll grab all those leaves, husks, whatever. And I'm going to just join them all together. Ooh. And then we'll mesh them as one model. And now we can do some serious sculpting. Smoothing. Actually, let's jack up the resolution a little bit. to flatten our mesh out there a little bit. Flatten it out here. Again, I don't mind there being the suggestion of wrinkles and overlap because that's kind of what corn husks look like. Again, if you've never seen them in the wild, I'm actually growing some out in my backyard right now. So, and I grew up with my parents' garden, so I'm very familiar with corn husks. Alright, let's unsolo. And now we can grab our move tool. I'm going to turn symmetry off because I don't want this to be symmetrical on all sides. And then just kind of play around with a little bit here. You know, get the look that I want. One thing it's worth remembering is that corn also has a stem. So we're going to do a little stem creation, and I'll use the tube tool like I did before, just to reiterate the concept for anybody that's watching and trying to pick up on this stuff. So let's go ahead and do that now. We'll grab the tube tool, go to the side, and we'll lock it down. We'll use our path. And this stem isn't going to be really very long. And of course we need to align it with our ear of corn. Go into edit mode, jack up the size, starting and ending radius. I like that. Just give it a little bit of a flourish here, nothing too dramatic. Okay, now they do have a little bit of detail in them. So again, just to walk you through the profile tool, we'll come in here and just mess with this a little bit, not a lot. We'll turn snap off. I'm going to keep it kind of rounded as much as I can. Pull that in a little bit. All right. Jump back out, and you can see right there, we already have the makings of a nice little stem coming off of our ear of corn. And you know what? I think that's good enough. Let's go ahead and validate it. And I am going to apply a little bit of a smooth to it corporately because I don't want it to be as grainy as our pumpkin stem. Alright, so that is our corn stem. That is our husks. And then the cob itself we're going to pair with the... And now we can move the whole thing as a unit, and we can... Whoop! Hold on. What did I miss? Oh, the kernels. Yes. All right. Those need to be. We can leave them as their radial repeater. It's not going to hurt anything. Frankly, when this is all done and painted, I'll probably go ahead and, except for the major components, it is very corny, right? Just like that joke. All right, one thing that I want to show you too is we've got our husks here, which is great, but some people are like, you know, corn husks are not that smooth, and I get it. So let's grab our crease tool and just come in here and play around with it a little bit. I've got symmetry turned off for obvious reasons. And actually the husks kind of feed from the stem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab the husk and the stem. We're going to mesh those together, kind of a high count. And we don't need to, but I'm going to do a little smoothing here because I'm kind of a perfectionist. When this thing hits the slicer for 3D printing, I can guarantee you that it is not going to, those little anomalies are not going to show up at all. Then I'm going to grab my crease tool, and starting here, I'm just going to kind of draw some lines into my husk. I'll turn the intensity down. Let's redo those at a slightly lower intensity. And again, artistic interpretation. I'm working with a pen, so if I want them a little deeper, I can start light and then just lean into it with some pressure. You get the idea. Now again, the bottom we don't have to worry about because this is going to be trimmed flat unless we embed it in the cornucopia somewhere. Alright, so again, there is our, I'm going to close this so we can select it all at once. Now I don't have a whole lot of time left, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, real quick I'm going to step out here, give me 1 second. What I want to show you is how we paint these things for printing and prep them for a slicer. In this case, Bamboo Studio is the slicer of my choice. But it's really easy, and the nice thing is when you do the painting in here and you take it, I'm not going to go through the whole process today. We can cover that tomorrow. I'm going to start the stream a little earlier. We'll have a little more time. Like I said, I've got to wrap up and run some errands. But I want to show you the painting portion of it today. If you want to see how we work this into our slicer pre-painted, then you'll want to stop into to the stream tomorrow. But let's go ahead and start with our corn cob. So I'm going to grab the stem, which is actually the stem and husk. Let's name it accordingly. Okay, and I'm going to switch out of matte cap into paint mode now so we can see the colors as we apply them. So we've got the stem and the husk selected. Generally I add layers to add the color. That just gives me the ability to delete those layers later if I want. We're going to make that green. We'll come in here to our color picker. Where's our color picker? It's usually down here at the bottom. Interesting. Oh, it was turned off. Never mind. I'm like, what is going on? So you can kind of see the color already coming in. I'm going to pin this open so it doesn't keep closing on us. So again, here's the color. We can make it a little lighter, maybe a little yellowish green because it's toward the end of harvest. And then just hit paint all. We've got the roughness turned up so it doesn't show a specular highlight, which wouldn't really make sense. I'm actually going to go ahead and validate my kernels. Actually, you know what? No, just for grins and giggles, let's leave them the way they are. All right, so we want a nice yellow corn. There we go. Roughness again. We'll change the roughness a little bit so it's got a little bit of shine. And then hit paint all. And just like that, we've painted our corn. Let's move on to the pumpkins. Same concept here. I'm going to pick a nice orange. Pumpkins have a little bit of shine to them, so we'll just leave it like that. Oops, my bad. I just realized I didn't actually create layers on these. Kernel row. Again, we're going to go yellow. And again, layers they can handle anything from colors to sculpting. I haven't shown you anything with layers in here because I've been moving kind of quick. We'll cover that a little bit tomorrow, a little bit more, but for example, on our husk and stem, if you see here, and I'll pin this open so you can see it too, if I come in and I just turn the green off, color goes away. So if I do some extraordinary, painting and texturing and sculpting on this, let's say for example, just for argument's sake, I went ahead and used my brush here on this layer too, right? See what I did here? I turn that off, it goes away. Isn't that nice? I'm going to undo because I don't want the corn to have warts. But you get the concept. All right, so we've got our kernel, we've got yellow. Let's go ahead and apply our yellow. I mean, I like sweet corn, so even if it was a little bit warty, I would probably still eat. You can see our cob there in the center. We should probably paint that yellow too. I'm not going to put a layer on that because nothing's going to change on that. All right, moving on to the pumpkin. Let's do orange. And again, go with a nice Hobby Lobby orange color. There you go. I've got a pumpkin over here. I'm going to do the same thing. And we'll paint all. And then we've got our stem. That's going to be a green, so we'll step over here, kind of a dark green. I'm going to increase the roughness. That's not going to have any specular highlights. And then we've got another stem over here. Again, green. And again, you don't have to put layers for each of your colors, but for example, let me give you another example of why layers are so great. All right. So let's say that you're painting this not just for, you're not painting this just for 3D printing. You're painting this because you're going to do an artistic rendering. All right. So we're working on the stem here. We've got the green layer. Let's add another layer, and we'll call that yellow, because you want some yellow on top of your green. You're like, I want to give it a look and see how it looks. So you grab your yellow color. Maybe it's kind of a greenish yellow. All right. You're not going to paint all. All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to use our paintbrush. We're going to turn down the intensity. I'm going to close this panel. Actually, I'm going to unpin this panel because it's just annoying to me. All right. And then just very lightly, you're going to come in here and start introducing some color. And you're painting around. Now you won't do this for 3D printing, and the reason is because 3D printers, as advanced as they're getting, are going to have some issues printing gradient colors, the transitional colors in between. This is Nomad Sculpt, running on an iPad Pro. All right, so you get your color in here, like, yeah, you know what, I'm really digging this. And you step back and look at it and go, I'm not so happy. I'm not so happy with it. I wish this green or this yellow was a brighter yellow, or maybe even a little bit more subdued. I don't know, but there's just something about it I'm not like. So you got a couple of options. All right, you did it on a layer. You can just eliminate the layer and start over. Or this is where it gets really cool. You can say, you know what? Pull a mask from the color. All right. And then I'm going to go to my mask tool. I'm going to invert that mask. I'm going to say, I really want more of an orangish green. Or maybe you wanted, I don't know, you wanted it to look like it was starting to dry out at the stem. So you want to do like a brown color. All right. And now, because you pulled a mask from the existing color, you can just go ahead and paint all. And just like that, you've changed the color on the fly. That's the beauty. That's just some of the beauty of layers. A lot more control. All right? So, there you go. I'm going to get rid of the layer because I don't need different colors of green. I'm going to print one color of green. Same with the cornucopia itself. I'm going to call this yellow. We'll call it gold. You know, you apply your gold color, or you find a gold color that you like. And then you paint it. And you're like, yeah, I like that. And again, from an artistic perspective, maybe you want to put lighter colors up here, you know, have it fade into a lighter yellow because you're going to do renderings. You can do that with the layers. It's kind of an ugly gold. Let's brighten it up a little bit. Now tomorrow, I think what I'll show you, in addition to modeling additional fruits and veggies, putting it into our cornucopia, I think tomorrow what we'll do is we'll cover how to put kind of like a basket weave texture on this piece here, which is just going to further enhance the cool factor, if you will. I can go ahead and hide all the controls, but that's what we've done today. We've created our cornucopia, got our pumpkin on the way, ear of corn. I suppose we can probably go ahead and compose this ear of corn a little better. So let's do that. Alright, I'm thinking... And I'm not going to go full composition, obviously, to get all my players in position. Not worried about overlap right now. We'll tune the pieces accordingly when we need to. Let's pin this open, make life a little easier. Pumpkin 1, pumpkin 2. Can never have enough pumpkins. Scale that a little bit. Again, remember the idea here is to have a little critter coming out of the cornucopia. So we're going to stack fruit and have them attach and connect to each other as much as possible. The pumpkins, we're not going to trim. We're not going to trim anything just yet because I want to make sure that we've got the composition that we want before we go and start doing that. But you know, we might do a couple of ears of corn. And then once we get everything placed exactly where and how we want, then we'll go ahead and start trimming the bottoms, getting everything ready to sit square on our printing plate for the printer. Does that make sense? Good. Hope it makes sense to somebody, because sometimes I confuse myself. But again, just in preparation for that, I'm going to go ahead and lock our view. In the case of the ear of corn, again, I'm going to tilt this up a little bit. That bottom is going to be cut off, and again, the reason is because we want it to sit nicely on the printing plate. And then our efforts to connect and attach everything will be, again, so this prints successfully as a single object. With minimal supports required. Okay, let's go home and take a look, get rid of the grid, get rid of that. And just get real showy, we'll put it in turntable mode so we can look at it as it spins. Ooh. Well, if you're going to do it, I guess we got to turn the paint back on. There we go. So there you go. That is where we are, and that is where we're going to stop for today. We'll be back tomorrow morning. I'm thinking probably around 11 if I don't get started a little sooner, but definitely by 11. I might try to, you know what? I might try to get in here about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning to pick up with this. And between now and then, I'm going to kind of put my brain together and figure out what critter I want coming out of there. And then we'll go ahead and finish it up tomorrow. And again, like I said, in addition to that, we're going to create a basket weave texture and put it on our cornucopia as well. And then you can scale this up and down as big or as small as you want. I think we'll do just a straight print version, and then we'll also do a version where we'll slice it, make it so it can be smaller and slice it up into segments, so it'll be a flexi as well. Because I know how people love their flexis. Anyway, I hope everybody had a good time. If this is helpful or useful to you in any way, the best way to show your appreciation, of course, is to like us and follow us. And tune in, and obviously, like and follow us and join us. And then at the same time, we do have links on our bio here in TikTok, and we're now streaming on YouTube and Twitch and here. And I think that's going to be it for now. We're just going to keep it to those 3 platforms. But if you're a printer and you want to print these either for yourself or if you want to sell them commercially, we do have a lot of models up on My Mini Factory and Patreon. Actually, Patreon just points the way to My Mini Factory, and as I said, all of our profiles all of our links are in the link on our bio. So, but if you just want to search for us, we're at Laughing Dragon Foundries almost everywhere. Patreon, My Mini Factory, Twitch, etc., etc. So, all right, everybody, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you if you come back. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, have a good one.